please edit this to make me seem less autistic? I'm fucking begging, dude, please. I'm Violet. I'm a host on the Dead Radio Show, and today I'm here with Lucas Spencer. Lucas, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Hello, I am Lucas. I am 23 and from New York. I have been playing in bands for the last decade. I am a vocalist, the former vocalist of metalcore band Feed the Addiction.
Oh, just an easy starter question. How are you feeling today, like creatively, mentally? How are we doing?
It's been a stressful year. It's been pretty fucking hectic, but honestly, like when things get super hectic and stuff like that, like I feel like that's when I'm the most like inspired and stuff like that creatively.
Yeah.
So I've been definitely pushing with some stuff behind the scenes. Been kind of keeping quiet, keeping low key.
Yeah.
Not too ready to like announce anything just yet with what my future endeavors are looking like. But yeah, I haven't stopped. You know what I mean? Just been quiet. That's about it.
Yeah. Next question I'm going to ask is, what is your songwriting process like?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That's honestly a super hard question to kind of answer.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated answer.
Okay.
So it really depends. It's kind of it depends on the song. Sometimes like it'll start with like getting a melody and then putting lyrics to the melody, tracking some idea, and then sometimes like recording the instrumentals around the vocal.
Yeah.
That's a process that I've done more than a few times, or sometimes it's the instrumentals are first, and then kind of going into that process of sitting down and going piece by piece, and part of the song as going from one part of the song to the next and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's there's no like right or wrong answer. I feel like when it comes to my writing process, like it's just like whatever feels good in the moment, like whatever is like making me feel inspired and just kind of following that feeling.
Yeah.
So there's not like one way that I necessarily kind of go for it, but in a lyrical sense, I try my best to keep things as like poetic as possible. I'm super like into poetry and stuff like that, so lyrically I try to make like take it from like a poetic kind of viewpoint, instead of having like things like always so literal. Like I like using a lot of metaphor and stuff like that. That's lyrically kind of where I really enjoy writing.
Yeah. Where do you draw inspiration from?
Anything and everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be like I'll be watching a movie and something in the movie kind of inspires me, or of course, like my personal life and stuff like that, things that I've personally experienced and gone through, or things that maybe my bandmates have gone through and stuff like that, and kind of sitting down with them and working with them to kind of flesh out their feelings and their like vision and stuff like that, and what they're feeling with the song. It could literally be me walking down the street and I see something, maybe like a piece of art or graffiti or something like that. So again, like it's kind of like a multiple choice kind of a thing where it's just like I get inspired by anything and everything. I mean, video games, media, of course, then you have like your bands that, are your favorite bands and stuff like that you grew up listening to that mean a lot to you, and, you kind of draw inspiration from them a little bit, so kind of just all over pretty much. It's probably, I'd say, the
everything.
best answer. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Life in general.
Life in general, true.
Yeah.
When did you realize that music was what you wanted to do?
That's a really fun question, actually.
Favorite.
So I've always felt like super connected to music, like ever since I was super small.
Mm.
There's actually a photo of a little like 2-year-old me in a diaper, um, banging on a snare drum with like a toy spork
Yeah.
and like a TV remote.
Oh
So
my God.
like music has like always been like something that I've like really felt drawn to. I remember like, you know, at a super young age, like I would write songs in my room and stuff like that, and um, nothing good. You know, I was like in elementary school and it was just like writing
Gross.
whatever. Um, you know, but like both of my parents were like super into music and stuff like that. And you know, my dad kind of raised me more on like the metal side of things and stuff, and then I had my mom who kind of drew like, you know, I drew inspiration from like the pop punk side of things. You know, she got me into like Green Day and like 182 and stuff like that. My dad kind of put me on to like a lot of like 80s like metal and stuff like that, like 80s death metal and stuff like Napalm Death is like a big one that my dad put me onto when I was really small. And of course, you know, Metallica, you gotta mention Metallica, of course. It's like I like really started taking it serious though about like I was like 13. And I was just like kind of curious, like I didn't really know if I was like capable of screaming, but I was like 13 and I was like, I'm just gonna try to do this. And kind of would just be like, and I probably drove my dad fucking nuts, but I would like sit in the car with him and like listen to like my favorite bands and just try to scream along. And like when I was first trying to figure it out, it hurt. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I was just like making these weird, crazy noises, trying to figure it out and like just like imitate what I was hearing on the songs that I was listening to. And then I just remember like this very key moment was like a little bit after my 14th birthday. I was sitting in the car with my dad, and I remember listening to Lights by the band Forever in Combat, which is absolute banger. If you've never heard of that band before, like totally go check them out. But I was like sitting in the car listening to that song with my dad, and there's like this heavy breakdown like part that was like coming up, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go for it. And I did, and that was my first time figuring out how to do a false chord low scream, and I just like kind of took off from there, and I just kept going and practicing in my bedroom, and then started trying to do like the whole vocal cover thing, and started posting videos onto Facebook. Really, really, really bad vocal covers. Recorded on like a crappy old like Kodak camera, and I would like go outside with like my sound system, plug my phone in. My neighbors probably hated me.
Hated your fucking guts, dude.
Yeah, so I just like would go outside on like the back porch of my parents' like old house and just like fucking record myself screaming like a maniac, and that's kind of how I got my start into doing it. And the first time that my mom heard me screaming, she thought it was the dog barking, and I literally like, I'll never forget it. Like I got a text message and my mom was like, "Why the fuck is the dog barking?" And I was like, "That's not the dog, that's me." And she was like, "I don't know what you mean by that." And I had to like explain it to her, so it was like super uncomfy.
What's the biggest challenge you faced as an artist?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that I feel like you kind of like everybody who is a creative kind of like faces at one point or another. There's so many obstacles. Like I feel like being within the creative field, like you are always trying to like overcome obstacles, and there's always going to be some kind of adversity for you to kind of overcome and figure out. I think one of my biggest ones is like finding your tribe, like really trying to find people who like kind of have like a very similar vision and same kind of passion towards the same kind of a thing. Really finding like the right people to work with and like have as your team is probably one of my biggest like struggles. Like I've gone through so many different like starting a project and it just like doesn't work out, and you know, you think this project is going to work, and then, you know, turns out maybe the other people involved aren't so passionate about it, and they're more passionate about other projects that they're working on. So trying to find that groove is and that find your people is really, I'd say, like one of my toughest things that I've probably faced, especially, when you are in a project and then you part ways with the project and you're like, all you want to do is write music and just keep going. And like, then you're just like, all right, I got to find something now. I got to find something now. I got to find people. I got to put something together. I got to get back out there. So I think that's probably one of the many difficult challenges that I've probably faced as my time doing music, for sure.
Yeah. Has vulnerability gotten easier or harder to bring into your music as you've evolved?
Um, Honestly, it's definitely gotten a lot easier, I'd say. Um, Music has always been like a very therapeutic thing for me. So like from more or less like the very beginning, it was always me writing what I was feeling a lot of the time. Not even a lot of the time, like honestly, like all the time is really what it is. Like it's a major outlet for me. And like, I kind of look back to like being, a kid and, seeing things from the prerogative of, wow, like I heard this artist and this artist like really made a huge impact on me as a human being. Um, and there are so many different bands and stuff like that for me that were, that made me feel a little less alone.
Yeah.
And I think a huge part of why I love doing this so much is I get to kind of give that back and kind of be the same thing for other people. And like, that's really important for me, is to make music that resonates with people, to make sure that, it's like, hey dude, you're not alone. Like there are other people that also kind of feel the same way that you're feeling.
Yeah.
Especially in a world like today, you know what I mean? It's rough out there. So
It really fucking is. How do you stay grounded when performing songs that come from such a raw place?
Honestly, I think like the biggest part is adrenaline.
Yeah.
Once I get on stage, it really is just like I like become a different person. Like a lot of people have kind of had that, like, oh, well, you're a vocalist, like you're a front man, like you're a singer in a band, like you must love, people, and you're super extroverted and you love the spotlight. And it's like,
nope.
I'm so opposite. Like,
yeah.
I'm very, like, it's not that I don't like people. I love people. I love to, like, I'm a yapper for sure, so I love having a good conversation. But I'm like definitely a little like introverted and kind of have that like social anxiety and stuff like that still, for sure. But the second that I get on stage, pretty much like I get super, super nervous and I can feel my whole entire body pretty much shaking. And then like once I'm like halfway into probably like the first song, it's like that's where I'm like, I just like become like a completely different person. Something just takes over me. My entire mindset just kind of like changes and stuff like that. So, and then it's just really running off of that adrenaline and just putting everything into my performance. And it's a big thing for me performance wise is like stage presence. Like it's super important for me, is to put on a good show. Nobody wants to watch a boring frontman stand there awkwardly on stage for the 25 minutes to a half hour that they're playing. So my job is to entertain you and bounce around like an absolute maniac. It's the way that I see it.
Do you ever feel like the metal scene expects artists to stay angry? And if so, does that feel limiting?
I don't necessarily think that the metal scene expects like artists to kind of stay angry. I think it's more so like stay angsty. You know what I mean? I think like that angst is something that a lot of people like fall in love with when they find the scene and they start falling in love with metal music and stuff like that. I don't really like, I think the biggest thing for me personally though is like I'm so very like keep to myself, and I try not to like really focus on like what people want from me musically, and it's like I'm definitely like doing it in the sense of like I'm doing creating the music for other people to experience and appreciate. You know what I mean? But I'm also doing this for me. You know what I mean? Like, this is my outlet. This is something that I'm doing because I love it, because I'm passionate about it, and it's everything and anything I've always wanted. I live and breathe music, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, if you fuck with it, you fuck with it, and if you don't, you don't.
Yep.
And if you don't fuck with it, then I'm like, that's fine. Like, that's totally cool. Like, everybody kind of has their own taste, and music is of course subjective, for the most part. But if you don't fuck with it, then it's just not for you, and that's totally fine. And I like writing angry stuff. I like writing sad stuff. I just like writing how I feel, and I think that is the most important thing for me personally.
Do you see your music as a form of therapy, rebellion, storytelling, or something else entirely?
All the above, honestly. All the above, for sure. I like a good story, for sure. I'm a sucker for a really solid storyline. I really love albums that kind of have like a story to them, or like songs. Like, for instance, like a really big inspiration in a sense like that for me would be like Crown of the Empire, where they had like Johnny Ringo, then they had like Johnny's Revenge, and then they had Johnny's Rebellion, and like those three songs were all on three separate albums, and they all were like telling the story of this character that Andy Leo had created, and had this vision of. So I totally love stuff like that, like, for sure. Am I like super heavy on like the kind of theatrical stuff myself, as far as making that like everything that I do musically? Like, that's not really like my thing. Like, for me, it's more of like that therapeutic, like, emotional thing. But like, I love taking bits and pieces of different kinds of things and kind of fusing them into one just kind of amalgamation of what I enjoy.
And last question, why is creativity important to you?
That's a really good question, actually. For me personally, like, if I remember correctly, I think it was Jim Carrey that said this. The opposite of depression is expression. And what, if not the most authentic way to express yourself, is by being creative. That is your most authentic, real self in its rawest form. And I think there's such a beauty to that, and that's like super important for people to, really lean into that creativity. And it could be with anything, of course. Any kind of music and art, and you could be creative in so many different ways. And I feel like from a very young age, we're kind of taught to suppress that creativity, and like, okay, yeah, like, you can do this, like, as like a hobby, or you can do this like when you have time to do this down the line. But you can't make a career out of a creative outlet, which I think is such a bullshit statement and a bullshit mentality. And I think that, realistically speaking, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do if you put your mind to it.
Hell yeah, talk your shit, brother. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to add?
I guess I'll kind of leave it off with, there's probably a lot of people that have forgotten about me, and that I like, do music and all that shit, but I'm not done doing it. I haven't left the scene. I'm still working on stuff, just keeping very quiet about it. I do have a new project in the works, so, keep eyes peeled for that. Not too sure on like a timeline or anything like that right now. We're kind of just taking our time and just kind of doing things our own way, and we just really find it important to be authentic in what we're creating, and making sure that we do it the right way. So that's pretty much about it. It's just keep eyes peeled for the new project. Pretty much it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit down and yap with me.
Yeah, always, dude. Absolutely. That was awesome being able to sit down and nap with you.
Always.
I appreciate you having me.
That's it. That's all. I hope everybody enjoyed getting fucking flashbanged for 40 minutes. It's so bad.
It's not that bad. It's fine.
Ugh.
It's